So, an unsung hero in the Bible, Abigail, that's my girl. I really like Abigail for so many reasons. She really just resonates with me, and a question I have been asking as we navigated through the Pearls of Wisdom series last week. I was really thinking about, well, how exactly as a Christian am I supposed to respond to a fool? And not so much as engaging in with the fool, but just dealing with the person. If you are around somebody who you can say is a fool, how are you supposed to deal with that person? And the Lord brought back to me Abigail's story. And so if you don't know Abigail's story, you need to go to 1 Samuel 25 and read it for yourself, because I'm just going to give an excerpt of it. But Abigail, her husband's name was Nabal. Well, Nabal means fool. And he was true to his name. He was a fool. And he dealt with people in such a way, his character dictated he was a fool. However, she wasn't. She was an honorable woman, and she was well respected. And I look at the situation where David was off at a distance on the outskirts of land by Nabal's land, by his livestock. And David and his men, they ended up providing some type of protection for Nabal's property, for his livestock and his land. So he made sure nothing went wrong. He took care of them, not being asked to do it. He just did it. And then one day, David sends in a messenger to Nabal to say, hey, can I get one of those sheep that you have over there so that we can slaughter it? Mind you, he's been guarding his sheep for him, has not stolen anything from him. And Nabal came back and said, no, who are you? Who are you to come and ask me for anything? And then the message got back to David, and David said, oh, really? Okay. Here's the wrath. And so David and his men were going to come and bring their wrath, if you will, on to Nabal and his people. But Abigail came, was notified of what happened, and she took it upon herself to go and meet David. And this is where I want to pick up. When Abigail saw David, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed down before David with her face to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, my Lord, let the blame be on me alone. Please let your servant speak. Please let your servant speak to you. Hear what your servant has to say. May my Lord pay no attention to that wicked man, Nabal. He is just like his name. His name is fool, and folly goes with him. But as for me, your servant, I did not see the men my master sent. How do you deal with a fool? Sometimes we have to stand in the gap. Abigail stood in the gap. David and his men were coming to bring wrath in a way that they felt was justified. And she stood in the gap single-handedly. She laid prostrate and she gave reverence to him very respectfully. In that day and time, what she did was very respectful and humble. And he acknowledged that he could have walked over her. He could have ignored her, but he didn't. And she was willing enough. She was courageous, bold, confident, enough to go and just stand in the gap. So what does that look like today? You're not going to probably run into David and his army anytime soon. However, the power of prayer, intercessory prayer, that is us today standing in the gap. There are books like The Power of a Praying Mom, Wife, Husband, Parent. Those books are very significant in helping you, equipping you to pray and pray like you mean it. Going with the power of God with you. When you are praying, you are communicating with God and you are stepping in for the person who is the fool. So the power of prayer, the power of standing in the gap for someone is how we deal with a fool. Because unfortunately, Nabal, he was born a fool. That was his name. So, who are you willing to stand in the gap for? Who in your life do you need to intercede for? Because they very well have been born, aka Nabal.